Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. The prayer put in your pamphlet is the Our Father this morning. I'd like to take you through it a little differently than maybe we normally do. Okay? And just be with it for a little bit. Our Father, our Mother, our Sister, our Creator, our world, our universe, who art in heaven, here, now, present, and always. Hallowed be thy name, your name, our name, the collective universe's name. Thy kingdom come, the present, the now. Thy will be done, allowing for expression of love, of peace, allowing for the experience and the knowing, on earth as it is in heaven, on earth as it is now, knowing that earth is heaven, a separate piece of the whole, all one in the universal presence of Creator, of divine. Give us this day our daily bread, our connection to Source, our allowance that Source is in each of us, that feeding on the universal love that allows us to know our experiences are being witnessed, are being cherished. And forgive us our trespasses, ourselves, knowing that experiences are not right or wrong, but that we, in this existence, on this earth, as divine expressing as human, need to learn to live with our experiences and the experiences of each other, as we forgive those who trespass against us, allowing for the knowledge of divine in each, knowledge that their existence, their experience sometimes rubs against our own, allowing for that peace and compassion to flow. Lead us not into that temptation of guilt. Lead us not to thinking that we are less, that our experiences are less, or that we have done something completely and totally wrong. For it is all experience. It is all so that we may know the divine creation of love. Deliver us from the evil that prevails only through the experience and not through the divine. Allow us to remember that the evil exists only in recognizing and only for those that are trying so hard to recognize or to come to terms with their human experience. Amen. Often looked at this prayer and wondered, what's the real translation? Because when we understand where we are in the universe, we know that it's not a God that condemns. It's not the universe that condemns. It's not the universe that's spewing the evil, but it's our own misinterpretation of events and who we each are. And through that, though, we were able to see, hopefully, that there is love present and get that back in some way. And for some people, the atrocities and the ridiculousness that they experience, there's these tiny bright lights that allow them to know that that love is there, that they might not have experienced any other way. So it's interesting to me, the experiences of humanity as a whole, when we really look at what's going on with our individual brothers and sisters just around the planet, let alone our next door neighbors or even ourselves. With all the talk of the Olympics lately, there's one young lady, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember her name, I should have written it down, but she's on the refugee team. And she is a very young lady in her teens that is a swimmer. And she had a very lovely life. And it sounded like, suburb of Erie, Mill Creek kind of life, the way she explains it. Her parents were considered middle-class professionals. She was on a very lovely swim team. She had friends. She was being very educated. I mean, everything we would want, we would think that would be perfect even for ourselves. I believe Syria was where she's from. And because of people believing things about other people, her home was destroyed, and she and some relatives tried to make it to safety, in their case going to Germany. And along the way, the little boat that they were in had issues. So her and a couple other young people got in the water, and she swam for 3 hours, pushing 13 of her, or if I have the story right, around 13 other people to safety. And yet, people recognized her because of that, and there was love in that despite the ridiculousness of her situation to even be there to begin with. And then her story was able to be shown because somebody noticed her at that refugee camp and gave her an opportunity to live out that dream of swimming despite everything that was going on. And that in itself is another bright light right through what we would consider, evil. So yes, yucky stuff exists. It really does. Barry, you said to me when we came in that we get to choose every day, but that doesn't mean we get to choose and it's all love and light and beautifulness, because that's where we came from. But sometimes the dichotomy of being a little bit away from that allows us to recognize that. And I think sometimes, a lot of times, us to recognize that goes right to forgiveness, which is the title for today. Forgiveness, the beginning of healing. And who is it, like the prayer, forgive us our trespasses. Well, who's trespassing? Are we trespassing against ourselves and our nature? Our true nature? Our divine nature? Is it really that somebody else is trespassing against us? Or is it that we're recognizing that something is rubbing against our real true nature, and we need to wrap our brain around how we can see some kind of lesson of love in that anyway? For me, I swear to goodness, every time you guys give me a topic, something happens in my life. Every time. And I had come up with this title, and stuff happened, and I'm like, really? Okay. And I come from a teacher background, and one of the things that we are told is when kids teach each other, they're able to learn or retain about 85% as opposed to like 5% from a straight lecture. So I had to laugh too, because I'm like, this must be something I really need to learn if I have to teach about it. So I'm going to retain about 85% of this experience to further on in the rest of my life. But many of you know my husband passed about 4 years ago. And because of that, there's been a great rift in the family in terms of my children and being connected with that part of the family. The backstory really isn't important, but there's just a rift, and there's, it's a big gaping hole with people believing things on both sides, whether they're true or not, because of perceptions and just what was happening at the time. And believe it or not, at Volta Love, we have a prayer list, a healing list. And I started putting that family on the healing list. And out of my mouth every time we pray with this healing list to the people that are with me is that we cannot put a limit on the healing. We cannot put any kind of structure on what we think will happen. Because you and I know that sometimes we put things on the prayer list because we think it needs to happen a certain way. And if we put them on the prayer list, maybe they'll get a clue. You know, we will do that at some time. It's just a human nature thing. You know, whether intentionally or not, you know, we just hope that that's what's going to happen. So I say every time, let's not put any limits. We know something's going to happen. Let Spirit take care of it. We're going to send that prayers, that love, that healing. Here we go. And I started putting this family on the prayer list. Oh, wouldn't you know it, I got a contact. I got a contact. And then I had to wrestle with that because the contact was a request to see the children, which is great. It's absolutely great. But you know what? You can't put a limit on what the healing is. And this affirmation at the bottom, the past is gone and I live only in the present. Stuff happens. And I think part of the forgiveness is allowing that was the experience at the time. And that was that present. And whatever happened in that present is that present. And this is this present. And in this present, there was a contact. You know, and then what do you do with that? Do you hold on to the past? Do you hold on to trespasses that may or may not be really what they are in retrospect when you leave that much time? You know, because how many times will you read history books? You know, records usually, and this end up getting released from just about all countries between 50 and 75 years after events if there are official records kept. It's about that amount of time before people can delve into seeing what really was corresponded back and forth. And then all of a sudden the perceptions start to peel back about what really happened and what was really going on. My son showed me a little blurb that he found on the internet. It talked about one particular person who was an opium addict, a little bit of a womanizer, was known for maybe getting angry here and there, you know, didn't play nice with other people all the time, all this stuff. You know, and you would think, ugh, I don't want to be around that person, right? And then in the other column, it was this person that was highly regarded in their community, and everybody said great things about them, was never in trouble, had served with honors during military service and all of that. And then you flip the card to see who they were. And on one side, the womanizer drug addict was Winston Churchill. And the upright citizen was Adolf Hitler. And those were true facts. And from my son's perspective, who's 24, that was like huge revelation that this many years later in history, those people are considered very much in reverse in terms of actions later in life and what happened. So perceptions at the time, when you're right in the middle of it, may not be really what's going on at all. And we don't know what's going on in the hearts of anybody, really. Which is why that forgiveness. So who do we forgive first? And is it really necessary to go up to somebody and say, I'm sorry? You know, we all teach our 3- and 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, when something happens, you have to say sorry right away. You have to turn to them, you got to say sorry, or it's not fixed. You know, you have to. And yet maybe that person needs to sit with it a little bit. You know, because the feeling really is the sorry and the recognition of what happened inside self during that situation. You know, now socially, yeah, it's great to go say sorry. I'm not telling you not to do that. But the internal process sometimes is way more than that. And sometimes it's allowing forgiveness of self in that present moment, especially in retrospect. Because I know for myself and things that happened 4 years ago, I think about some things and I'm like, should Jenn really be standing telling other people about forgiveness given what came out of her mouth at certain times? You know? So where does that forgiveness come first? Well, I think it's to allow that we can be totally different humans from second to second. And to allow that other humans around us are allowed to be the same. Especially, now people are digging up, you see, just because of the political atmosphere, everybody wants to dig up dirt on everybody else, But yet I look at that and I wonder, well, that was 20 years ago. Are they really even that same person? Can we judge somebody on a decision that got recorded that many years ago? Because if somebody were to record me and judge me on what came out of my mouth 4 years ago, I'd probably not be doing the job I am now. And then how many people do we read and do we go to hear speak that have had these huge transformations in their life? And yet, for some reason, we don't always allow that on a day-to-day basis with our fellow humans, especially the ones that might be real close to us, or especially the ones that are in like the limelight of whatever's going on in the world. Even God bless him, Michael Phelps, with everything that's been happening with him. And yet, you'll read things like, well, why does he deserve it? He smoked pot. I'm like, wow. That's where some people really are, is that we take things that go against our own sensibilities and then and think that should not allow somebody to be their best in this present, whatever that is for them now. And so I guess that's the challenge of forgiveness, is to allow that. And part of that's judgment, I guess, as well as forgiveness. But not just for others, but for ourselves as well. Allow that you can be totally different than what you were even 10 minutes ago. You could have a moment. Everybody has a moment. One of my most favorite stories I heard was, it was the Dalai Lama. And he's like all looked at as pious, peace, love. He does great things, wonderful things. And yet, the story is that some people that I know that were able to be in his presence and share a meal and stuff like that, his meal came out and it wasn't the way he thought it should be. And he threw a little hissy fit, at his chef, that he knows he likes stuff a certain way. But the reaction from my teachers were, how cool is that? How cool is that we got to know that he was human? And each and every day, he has to look at himself and say, do I want to yell about my eggs? Or do I want to say thank you for preparing them and have a conversation about how I really like my eggs? Do you see? So everybody, and I love that story because it's just, everybody is going through the same thing one way or another. And if we allow, my friends could have went, oh, really? The Dalai Lama got upset about his breakfast? Well, I don't think I like him anymore. Like, they could have done that, like, because of his, all the stuff he does. But instead it was, how cool is this that we're all in this together? How cool is it that we each get a chance to redirect who we want to be? And how cool is it that we can have a moment and know that that's our experience at the time? And our moments don't have to be evil, but our perception and carrying that out could be. And it's a choice. So live in the now. Design your future moment by moment. And know that your past, even though you can learn from it, doesn't have to be who your present is at all. I love just silent meditations. So if you don't mind, I'm going to allow you just to be quiet for about 3 minutes and just soak in the energy of the day, whatever you need from the talk. And I'll bring you back in just a few.